My dear girls, before women were allowed to speak, they were already thinking. Before they were allowed to write, they were already feeling. And when they finally picked up the pen, it was not to entertain the world, but to prove that they existed. Women's writing is not just literature, it is courage written in words. It is silence turning into voice. And today, as we begin this journey, remember this subject is not only about them, it is also about you. Girls, before we begin today, let me ask you something very honestly. Have you ever felt that your voice is small? That your thoughts are powerful, but the world does not always listen? That you have stories, feelings, questions, but no proper space to express them? If yes, then remember this very clearly. You are already standing at the doorway of women's writing. When we say women's writing in English, we are not talking only about books written by women. We are talking about voices that were once silenced, about experiences that were ignored, about lives that were lived quietly but deeply. Women's writing means writing that comes from women's lived realities, their bodies, their emotions, their struggles, their desires, their questions, their resistance. For centuries, women were spoken about, but they were not allowed to speak for themselves. And when they finally began to write, they did not write to impress, they wrote to survive, to breathe, to exist. Now let us travel back in time, not to palaces and victories, but to kitchens, courtyards, locked rooms, and silent evenings. In earlier centuries, a woman's life was decided before she could decide anything herself. Education was considered unnecessary for her. Writing was seen as dangerous. Thinking was discouraged. A woman was expected to be obedient, quiet, self sacrificing. If she picked up a pen, society became uncomfortable. So imagine this. Writing itself was an act of courage. To write meant to challenge patriarchy. To write meant to say, I exist beyond my roles. Early women writers often wrote secretly. Some used pen names, some wrote at nights when the household slept. Some wrote in stolen moments between duties and responsibilities. They did not have freedom, they created it word by word. Mary Wollstonecraft wrote when women were told that education would spoil them. Virginia Woolf spoke when women were denied both money and personal space. Their writing was not luxury, it was resistance. And remember this, they were not writing because life was easy, they were writing because life was difficult. Women's writing is not a single voice. It is not one emotion. It is not one culture. It speaks in many tones. Pain and protest, silence and strength, anger and hope, motherhood and independence, love and loneliness. Women write about the body, the home, the nation, the self. They write about war, trauma, memory, sexuality, caste, race, faith. And that is why women's writing is so powerful because it refuses to be limited. For a long time, history was written about women, but not by women. Women's writing changes that. When a woman writes, she does not just tell a story, she reclaims history. Think of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, uh, writing about war through women's eyes. Think about Kamala Das writing about female desire without apology. Think of Maya Angelou rising not silently but boldly. Said each woman writer says, my life matters, my voice matters. This is very important. Women's writing is not only about pain. Yes, there is suffering, but there is also joy, there is laughter, there is rebellion, there is self discovery. Women do not write only as victims, they write as thinkers, rebels, dreamers, creators. They write to imagine new futures, futures where women are not secondary characters. Now, I want to speak directly to you. A woman does not become a writer only by publishing books. A woman becomes a writer the moment she believes her voice is worthy. You become a writer when you question injustice, you observe deeply, you feel intensely, you refuse silence. You do not need permission to write, you do not need perfection to write. You only need honestly write your fear, write your dreams, write your anger, write your faith, write your confusion, because your experience is knowledge. This subject is not just part of your syllabus, it is a part of your self awakening. When you study women's writing, you learn to name oppression, you learn to value yourself, you learn to speak without fear, you learn that your life is meaningful. This course is not about memorizing texts, it is about recognizing yourself in literature. Women's writing moves women from silence to speech, margin to center, object to subject. It tells the world we are no longer invisible. And girls, once a woman finds her voice, nothing can truly silence her again. Let me say this with all my heart. You are not just students of women's writing. You are future writers of your own lives. Whether you choose literature, science, teaching, or any profession, carry this confidence with you. Your thoughts are valid, your words have power, your silence is not your destiny, and if someday you feel unheard, remember the woman who wrote before you and pick up your pen again. Women's writing began as whisper. Today it is a voice. Tomorrow it will be a movement. And somewhere in that movement, your voice is waiting.